Interesting. So interesting. One of the things that's not on the screen is the time, but my watch tells me it's 6 o'clock.
It does mine.
Okay. So then I think we'll go ahead and since we're live, we'll call the July meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. And I will read for just a moment the legal thing that has to be read into the record. So the July 21st, 2001 Woodland Historic Preservation Commission will be conducted pursuant to the governor's executive order N2920. The meeting will be held via teleconference, and the commission members and the public will participate via teleconference. So those locations are not listed on the agenda and are not accessible to the public. The public is encouraged to listen to the HPC meeting live on Woodland TV channel 20 and also by going to the City of Woodland's website at www.cityofwoodland.org/meetings. If you wish to make a comment during the general public comment period or on a specific agenda item, you may submit an email to the HPC at hpc@cityofwoodland.org prior to the public comment on that item. Email comments submitted to be read into the record shall be no more than 3 minutes when read aloud. Please include the agenda item on the subject line. Thank you. And so we'll go to roll call, Megan.
And so Elizabeth Lambert is
present. Thank you.
And James Lapsley.
Present.
And Mark Dennis.
Present.
And Jim Bohan.
Present.
Great. We have a quorum and everyone is present for the meeting.
Great. Thank you. And we do not have minutes to review or approve for this particular meeting and for the previous meetings as part of today's meeting. So that takes us down to staff and commissioner comments. I would first like to thank Commissioner Lapsley for making arrangements to attend today, given the fact that he has got a lot of personal issues going on. So I really do appreciate that, Jim. Thank you for making those arrangements to meet today.
Thank you, and I think that I'll be able to make the future meetings on Wednesdays.
So that's great news. And I'd also like to welcome Commissioner Dennis aboard officially. Welcome to the commission, and we look forward to working together and getting back to in-person meetings too pretty soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
And then let me ask any of the other commissioners, do you have anything you'd like to comment on at this point? Not hearing or seeing any. And let me then ask staff. Megan, are there any staff comments at this point?
Yeah, I do have a few downtown happenings to update the commissioners about. So let me pull up this. So just a couple of happenings in our downtown and give you a little update on some things from economic development. So I did want to let you know that I have been working with our interns that we had over the summer. One, to update the landmark tree web page on the city website. As you remember, we did a whole series of nominations and approvals through a Historic Preservation Commission and also the Parks Commission for heritage trees that were nominated. And David Wilkinson graciously, brought those forward and co-presented. So let me see if I've been adding these hyperlinks. I'm going to try them out today here. So here we can see some of the trees that we presented and nominated and approved for the heritage tree.
Hey, Megan, this is Jay. When you did your screen sharing, did you pick one application or did you pick your whole screen?
Let me check.
Yeah, we are still just seeing the PowerPoint.
Right. It did not open, Megan.
Go ahead and stop sharing and then start your sharing over again and choose the entire screen.
Okay. Sorry about this technical issue here. Let me get it straightened out. Do I have to toggle between the two? Mm-hmm. Okay, here you can see some of the trees that were nominated and approved by the HPC Commission. And we have updated the city webpage to have all of those new trees and information on the webpage along with the previous year's trees. And that was done by an intern with the planning department. So here's the starting of 2019 trees, but at the top we'll have 2020. And we hope to maintain this page to have this information available to the public. So going down my list here, I also wanted to let you know about a new sunflower art piece has been installed at City Hall to celebrate our commitment as the Bee City USA. The artist is Ken Smith, and this sign is similar to the one that is the same artist created and installed on East Main Median. You may have noticed that one earlier in the year. And so that can be found in the demonstration garden just outside of the front entrance at City Hall. Additionally, the Celebrate Woodland team is currently coordinating several festivities for the 150th anniversary. I know James has been very instrumental in working with that group and also being a voice for HPC and other groups that are involved with that anniversary. The main event will take place again on October 16th. In the parking lot across from City Hall in a festival layout with booths for local businesses, live music, food, and other festivities. Additionally, we had also, in our previous meeting, commissioners had suggested and voted to have the Heritage Home Awards be on that similar weekend. And so we will go through more details of that later in the presentation. And just wanted to also give an update that with the state eliminating the COVID tiering system, that all businesses now can be open to full capacity, which means downtown restaurants can start to staff back up and anticipate full capacity. And just a shout out to all those businesses to keep eating downtown. And economic development is currently reviewing the emergency parklet provision that they brought forward during the COVID pandemic. And so they will be working with local businesses to address that kind of ongoing outside seating that a lot of them have enjoyed. And a lot of customers have said that they want to keep. Also wanted to let you know that a new business is downtown. Embellish did open at 1st and Main Street. where the Crate Place used to be. And that is a boutique retailer that opened in that space, and they just had a grand opening. And additionally, the lab at Ag started and had its grand opening in late May. And that is actually located in the building adjacent to the courthouse, right at the entryway of the downtown. And it is the only, brings the only combined wet lab, commercial kitchen, and co-working space in Northern California to downtown Woodland. And the new item, it was presented on Good Day Sacramento, covered the event. Let's see if I can pull up this link for you. Looks like that video is not available, so I will have to skip this one. But to give you the kind of overall understanding of the wet lab, it's just kind of first in the series of incubators that's going to combine with our Ag Tech Park to provide startup space for any incubator businesses coming out of UC Davis. As you know, Woodland is kind of cutting edge ag technology with all of the international seed companies. Here, I can open this here and give you a little bit better idea of what is going on in the downtown here. See if it will load. Sorry about that. It looks like it's not going to load accurately, so I'll move on. And finally, I just wanted to share with you a few photos of the downtown that we had in our historic archive. We have shown a lot of pictures from the 30s, but I thought I would bring forward a few pictures from the 50s that actually Tom Stollard had provided the archive, and gives kind of an interesting look into Main Street. One of the comments was, wow, I've never seen that many people and bikes in one portion of yes. In this lower photo here, and that was an opening for Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. So they came to Woodland, and there was quite a turnout for that. And then also just kind of the 1950s, 1960s view of downtown. I think that we can easily say there has been some improvements in the downtown. You know, a lot of landscape buffers, and it used to be the main thoroughfare, actually the freeway thoroughfare. And once that removed, it became a little more pedestrian oriented, but you can see bikes once used the sidewalks for kind of a safety against all the traffic. So that's actually all that staff has to present on the notes for downtown. And I'll turn it back over to the chair. There is one request that I switch the agenda items to the nomination first and draft work program second, if that is okay with commissioners.
Thank you, Megan. That's really interesting. I love the pictures too. So even recognizes a Mustang down there on the street going away from us. So I had one. Switching the order of the business around for the draft work plan and the heritage home preservation awards. I don't have any particular problem with that. Do the other commissioners have any issue with that?
Fine with me.
Fine with me.
No problem with that, no.
Thank you. So, I don't think we need a formal motion for that, do we?
No, I don't think. I think we're okay. I just wanted to let everyone know.
Okay. So then we are at this point, then we're in the public comment period or for public comments. And I don't know that we have anybody from the public on the call at this point or that there were any public emails. So Megan, is there or are there?
Staff has not received any public comment on the agenda items.
Okay.
And there is currently nobody connected to the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. So then we should go on to pick up the Heritage Home and Historic Preservation Award nominations then. So back to you, Megan.
Thank you. I do want to preface that the title says 2020, but as we know, this has kind of merged into 2020, 2021 Heritage Home Awards. Fortunately, it might be a big shebang at the end of this with our 150th anniversary as well. So a good way to end the COVID a year and a half that we've had. But I wanted to bring forward the home nomination. It is the self-nomination for 603 Hollister Road. The home is constructed in 1937 and designed by Joseph Matroni. And the architectural style is Mission Revival. Has a lovely clay tile roof and adobe-like texture to the walls. And the current owner is Mark and Karen Hannum. And as I mentioned, they did self-nominate and are hoping to kind of squeak in at the very last minute here because we've had an unorthodox process to our Heritage Home Awards for this year. So they're hoping to jump on kind of as the final nomination. And so as I mentioned, the nominated home is a wonderful example and craftsmanship that exemplified by Joseph Matroni, a local and very prolific builder here in town. And as mentioned, the home is Mission Revival style. It was on the Stroll Through History in 2006 and is on page 277 in Explore Historic Woodland Guidebook. The home has had only 3 owners in its 84 years. Dorothy and Roy Cox, George and Carol Donkey, I may have said that incorrectly, and current owners Mark and Karen Hannum. And the home was completed in 1937 as a speculation home for the Beamer Park area. Features of the home are covered ceilings, hand-hewed beams, original hardwood floors, steel casement windows, pull-down screens, telephone center in the hallway, if we all remember those, with fold-down chair and telephone book holder and original porcelain tile bathroom. I just wanted to mention that looking through kind of the homes that we've nominated for the last couple of years, we don't have actually a lot of homes from the Beamer Park area, and this one is located in that region of town. Staff does actually recommend that this home be nominated for the 2021 Heritage Home Awards. As I mentioned, it is kind of squeaking in under the line because we do have deadlines for the Heritage Home Award process. And now that we have a new commissioner, there may be opportunities for everyone to kind of reassign some of the homes. So I would like to present that recommendation to commissioners at this point in time.
This is Commissioner Lapsley. I'd like to have a little bit of a discussion about the purpose of the Heritage Homes. I have no problems with this home. It's just quite lovely. There are a lot of homes that are quite lovely in Woodland. I guess the question I'm having is, what is it that we want to accomplish by recognizing these homes? I thought in the past that part of the process was recognizing owners having done things to maintain and to keep up the house. I don't see anything listed here in the Hannums, and probably they have done things and they might not have realized it. But I would think that there are plenty of homes throughout Woodland that they're nice historic homes. And if that's what we want to recognize, I don't have a problem with that. But I just wanted to have a little bit more of a discussion of purpose and just for guidance.
My understanding is that it is both, that it's, maintenance of the home and care of the home on an ongoing basis. And then also preservation in that terms, but then also, bringing a home back to life. So I think, we've had both in our nominations so far. There are some homes that we've nominated for 2020, 2021 that probably would fall under the first category, that it's, ongoing care and general maintenance of the home and preservation of the historic structure. But we have some others, like the one on 3rd Street. Let's see, that they've done a lot of work to the home. Let's see, the 146 3rd Street is the one I'm referring to, that they've done a lot of work to the home and kind of brought it back. So I think there's probably both.
I do want to build on Commissioner Lapsley's comment. I do think it would be prudent for us to reevaluate and clarify what the purpose of the award is, and also make that known to the public. I know that in the past we've talked about how the nomination process is made promoted and the public is made aware. And at that point, I think the previous commission had interest in keeping it confined to the historic preservation community in Woodland. But if one of our main charges as a commission is to bring awareness to historical preservation, the historic homes within Woodland, I think it might be wise to reconsider that.
I think I'll echo Commissioner Lambert's and Lapsley's comments. Also, one of the things I think that is important that we are looking at is identifying homes that are sort of remarkable for things that they brought about in history. For instance, in this particular case, this home is part of a series of homes of a particular era built within Woodland. And we've seen a number of those on the stroll. So that has a particular heritage aspect to it that's very historical. And I know the other one that we are looking at that I actually nominated myself, which is 186 Walnut, is also in the same time frame, built about the same time, and also the revival style as well. I know when I entered the nomination for that particular one, I commented on the fact that it was incredibly well maintained on the outside. We haven't seen the inside yet. So I think I would like to echo that as well. And I agree with the commissioners that we need to make sure that we educate the community on what this purpose is, and it's not just an old, nice home.
Or that it's restricting the owners in any way. I've heard some misconceptions about if people get this award, if a home gets this award, then it restricts what can be done to it going forward. So I do think that we have our fair share of education to do when it comes to this.
Well, this might be part of our discussion on the second item of, the work program, and specifically the direction given at last meeting to update information on our webpage.
Well, excuse me, Commissioner Lapsley here. I think one of the first steps for us, and let me say right now, I'm not, this is something for us to do, I think, in the future, and we shouldn't be making any changes right now to what's been done. But I think we need to clarify for ourselves the purpose and the city needs to clarify the purpose before we can really communicate it, as Commissioner Lambert pointed out, which is also quite key. So I think this is something for the future. I just wanted to raise it right now, and I didn't want to by any means derail the consideration of this home.
Thank you, Commissioner Lapsley. And so at this point, we have a self-nomination, and then we have 6 other approved homes. However, I would like to, as part of this discussion, bring up the fact that one of the 6 homes that we know that we have approved for this award, the one at 146 3rd Street, that particular home, it has a history, and for Commissioner Dennis, the background piece here is that the home was nominated, the homeowners declined the nomination initially, and then after a year, the homeowners, through communications with some members of the public, indicated that they would be willing to be nominated and accept an award for the home. And they, in this particular case, they are aware that there's no limitations that come with the nomination and with the award. They had their own reasons for declining. And so we renominated them, or I should say I renominated them. But from communication from Megan, we have not been able to get a response from the homeowner in the positive that they would accept the nomination at this point. So one of the things I believe we should do is we should remove that particular home from this process until we can ascertain that the homeowner is, sort of engaged with this process. And especially if we're going to do it for the 150th year for the city, we want to make sure that that's all pretty well. It's a beautiful house, and I think it deserves an award. The homeowners are somewhat non-communicative at this point. So, and so I would suggest that we move in that direction as well. So we would still end up with, if we move in that direction, we'd add one and take one off.
Commissioner Bohan, do we need to have a motion for that effect?
I think we would definitely need a motion for that. Well, we'd need a motion to accept the self-nomination for 603 Hollister. And then we also need a motion for removing the 146 3rd Street home from the process as well, so that we formalize that for the public.
Well, in the idea that motions should be separate and not joined together, I would like to move that we accept the self-nomination of 603 Hollister by the Hannons, and see if someone wants to second that.
I'll second that nomination.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just trying to contribute a little bit. I'll second that motion. Commissioner
Thank you, Commissioner Dennis. Thank you, Commissioner Lapsley. So we have a motion and a second. So can we get a vote? Is there any discussion about the motion at this point? No. Okay. Then we should then go ahead and take a vote on the motion. And so this is the one that's hard to hear. So I guess I'll go with Commissioner Lambert. Or is this, Megan, is this yours? Do I give it back?
I can roll call for you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lambert?
Yes.
Commissioner Lapsley?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennis?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bohan?
Yes.
Great. All in favor, and the motion passes.
Thank you. Then we have the second item then, which is the removal of the 146 3rd Street And I will, since I was the commissioner that nominated this particular home, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we remove the 146 3rd Street from consideration for the nomination for this year, fundamentally due to the lack of communication with the homeowner.
And I'd just like to say for the record that it can come back at any point for future nominations.
Commissioner Lapsley, I second that motion.
Thank you. Then Megan, can we do, or is there further discussion on this one?
I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you for the background on that property. And I completely agree. If they're not completely invested in being nominated, then maybe we can push that off to a later date. So thank you for the background, Commissioner Paha.
Thank you. And then Megan, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Lapsley?
Yes.
Commissioner Lambert?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennis?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bohan?
Yes.
So motion passes 4-0.
Great. So now then the next piece of business with this is the write-ups.
So I did put together this list. It's slightly changing now, but I just wanted to confirm commissioners for the different heritage homes. Now that we're moving forward and we have a date certain for the Heritage Home Awards. So going down this list, we did have 648 College Street, which I believe maybe Commissioner Lambert was doing that one.
Yes, that one's written up. So that, I think I sent you the write-up for that, Megan, on, it looks like March 2020.
I do have that in my files.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have 550 Oak Avenue, which we have Jim Lapsley.
Yep. And I have it written up. I have not sent it to you, I don't think. I've been going back through my emails. So I will send it to you later this evening.
Okay, that's great. And then we have 409 Casa Linda Drive, which I believe needs to be reassigned. So that's one that, Mark, you could consider. I can send you information. We could even just confirm it over email. But as I remember, it's a Matroni home and more modern in style, but a lovely rendition of his architecture.
Oh, the Casa Linda? I'm sorry, this is Commissioner Lapsley. I don't believe that's a Matroni home. It was on the stroll the last time we had a stroll, pre-COVID, and it was done in the 1950s. It's an architectural firm from Sacramento.
Okay, I'll confirm that and provide information to you, Mark.
Okay. So I'll be assigned that property at 409.
I believe, yeah, it's one that we have open, and the owners of the home have been very interested in being part of the Heritage Home Awards, so I can make that connection with them. And
thank you
for the write-up. And then we now have, or we're going to go on to 633 3rd Street. We have Jim Lapsley on that one, and Commissioner Lambert as well.
And that is the Matroni, I believe.
Okay.
That is the Matroni home.
Yes.
Okay.
Megan, Commissioner Lapsley here. That house has recently changed hands. That's not a reason to not go forward with the award, but I think that we need contact information in order to go forward. Commissioner Lambert and I were going to do that together. Commissioner Lambert, you're still up for that?
I am.
Okay.
We can talk logistics offline, but I did, because it was on the market, I did get the chance to go
Right.
look at it and ask some questions. So I'm happy to lead the write-up if you can help me with the research.
That would be fine.
Okay.
I can resend a welcome letter and congratulations and to the homeowner and let them know that they've been nominated and see if we get a response that way initially.
Right, because well, we should go forward as long as the new homeowners want that to happen and are cooperative. Again, we'd be getting back to the other Third Street house situation.
Sure.
So as soon as that can happen, if you can let Commissioner Lambert and me know, we will move
Sure.
on.
And I believe that when the homeowner sold the property, that was one aspect that they were kind of marketing. So the new homeowner might be well aware of the Heritage Home Awards. And then we move on to 186 Walnut Street, and I believe Jim Bohan is taking that one on.
Yes, I am.
And then we now have the new one at 603 Hollister, which is open for anyone to take as well.
Interesting.
I would be willing to take that on. However, I don't know what this write-up entails as of yet, or what the time frame is. So I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. So if I'd be willing to take it on, but I do need some parameters before I completely commit.
Sure. And I can send over an example of one of the write-ups, and we have a kind of document that walks you through some of the questions that we ask that kind of give you background information. We also have some resources through the archives and through information out of the walking tour book and from the stroll. If it's been on, it sounds like it has been on the stroll. So there may be some information there as well that can be pulled from. Let's see here.
Commissioner Lapsley here. The one comment about this, Mark. First of all, thank you for being willing to take that on. The part of the issue on some of the homes is doing some historical research on when the home was built, or the era at least. And in this case, there's no question. We know it was built, and the year is in the stroll booklet. So I think that you can really concentrate on the interior and the example of the style, and you'll get a chance to talk to the owners about what they've done or haven't done in order to be able to preserve the architectural heritage of the home.
And with,
Thank you for that.
there's lots of different ways to connect. If they want to meet on their front patio, or if they want to send you pictures of the interior, whatever they're comfortable with, or if they want to meet you via Zoom or on a phone call. We kind of give all options at this point with our new normal.
And I know you had mentioned earlier that Heritage Awards October possibly for the 150th. So what kind of time frame are we looking at for these?
Yeah, so on my next slide, let's see here. We kind of go over the where we're at with our timeline. So I think that August is really going to be the month to gather the information and kind of finalize it the first part of September, so that we can start putting together the materials for the award ceremony. I'm actually going to get ready to purchase the plaques. So this was an important meeting to kind of establish what homes are going to be on this nomination cycle. And I probably will be reaching out to you, sending kind of a blanket email, just confirming the built dates for the homes, because that was a big one. Apparently in the past, plaques have been made, and then lo and behold, new information comes up, and it turns out the house was built on a different year than our plaque was put together with. So that's really an important email because they have a back out date from when they can get us those plaques. And I'm still just kind of finalizing the where our ceremony is going to be held and what day specifically. Obviously, it won't be on our normal presentation days for the meetings. I think that the 16th, if I'm not mistaken, that's a Saturday. So there was some discussion of having the award ceremony the Friday evening before the official big ceremony for the 150th. And we can talk about that more. There was some discussion about having a garden party after the ceremony with that's outside, and having cake and other refreshments kind of as an outside option too, if depending on COVID situation. So all of those things are kind of available and being looked at for the award ceremony.
One more question. Is there a template that has been used in the past for these homes, or something that, some kind of basis, or did you want to talk offline, maybe at a later date to discuss this?
Yeah, I will go ahead and send you out a template for common kind of outline some questions that we kind of tick off to get information and kind of an example write-up that gives you kind of an idea of what direction to go in. I think in general, it's not pages and pages of a write-up, but we get kind of a good understanding of the history of the home, the background, the love that has been put into keeping a historic home. So,
thank you.
I was going to say, Megan, would you please send me that same thing?
Sure.
Because I still have to do my write-up.
Sure, I'll do a blanket email for anyone who's still missing that information.
Thank you.
That sounds great. And for general information, since we are talking about celebrating this with the 150th, the 550 Oak Street, as near as I can tell from the research I've done in the archives, was built in 1870, the year before the city incorporated. It was much different than the house that's there now. There was a major remodel in the early 1900s, about 1912, which actually changed the entrance to Oak Street. It had previously been on First, but it does have a very nice connection with the birth of the city of Woodland.
That's exciting to make those cross connections with what's going on in October and the other piece that I wanted to bring forward was there was some discussion on different presence at the 150th celebration. Jim, you might want to expand on this a little bit if you've heard more than I have, but I know CDD, so community development, may have a table with some information. I had kind of just put out there that I might be willing to have some information for HPC. And if anyone else wants to be a part of that, it's just really in the early stages of discussion. And, but, even if it's just boards that I make that have, the historic maps that people might be interested in looking at as part of the storytelling of the history of Woodland, and some of the walking tour guidebooks out. So those might be things that we discuss at our next meeting if we want to be a part of that celebration in any way.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So are there any other comments for this particular business item? Nope. Okay. Then I think we are going back to the draft work plan now.
Great. I just wanted to kind of, this last slide gives a little bit of the final things before the ceremony that we'll be doing that final month.
Beautiful pictures.
So now moving on to the work plan. Staff has been given direction by commissioners on the kind of draft work plan. We did some reorganization of that work plan and put different priorities. And one of the priorities that got moved up on the work plan list was outreach to the community in the form of our presence online. And, post-pandemic, or kind of at the end of the pandemic, I don't know if I can say post yet, but there was a realization that a lot of people are accessing online content more and more, and finding that as one of their main resources. And that there may be opportunity for us to give additional information and have a better online presence as a resource for the community. So with that, I just kind of wanted to go over, as I mentioned, that one of the aim of the HPC is to educate and have a dedicated presence on the city website. And that some of the things that were brought up in our previous meeting was to possibly have a better overview of Woodland's history, to possibly link additional historic maps, and potentially have resources for homeowners. That was brought up as something that might be valuable on our website as well. So staff did look into this a little bit more. As I mentioned, we have some summer interns that might work into the fall to help us work on this initiative. And staff worked with one of those interns on a case study, and we looked at 4 different communities, both large and small, and looked at four different aspects of their webpage content. So first aspect was content, and what really they had brought to the page. Did it have history of the community? Did it have other historic related content? Did it have historic preservation information, maybe resources when somebody was remodeling the home? And then also navigation, was the page easily readable and layout and easy to use? And then also what type of information was provided? Did it have state and national information? Once you got into the resources, what did they feel was important to share? And did it have archive information? And then aesthetics, what type of imagery did they use? And sometimes that helps in navigation also. So those 4 aspects were looked at. So one of the first ones we looked at was City of Berkeley. And let me see if I can go to that page for you. So overall, the City of Berkeley Historic Resource web page was well laid out, but lacked personal connections to the community and was a little more utilitarian in nature. Navigation, it was very easy to use, and you didn't have to click multiple layers to get to the information that you were looking for. There was a lot of documents on the page and a lot of information. We felt that sometimes it would be easier to put all of the, you'll see down here, there's a lot of different documents, to have links on the side that take you to those resources instead of having them all on one page. The one thing about the content that we noticed, that it didn't give the overall Berkeley history, that it left that for an external link, and that went to another site outside of the city website. And the types of information that it did include, historic resource information, a list of landmark structures, landmark map, parcel information, Mills Act information, and their landmark preservation ordinance, their historic survey, and then also some links to state and federal and local historic foundation. Aesthetics, we felt that the heading of the page was really nice, but that they didn't carry the images throughout the text, and that would have helped break up the text a little bit. So the next one we looked at was Napa County, and that was structured a little differently. It was very well organized, and it gave a breakdown of level of regulation, and even went as far as talking about Mills Act and tax credit benefits. But it was, again, not very aesthetically pleasing. Let me go to that website and give you a little taste of that website. So it had good graphics at the beginning, and like I said, it gave additional information that some of the other websites didn't provide. So navigation or content, it did provide a history of the county and the communities within the county. And navigation, it did have a table of contents, which was useful for longer pages. And it did have a drop down with hyperlinks, opposed to as opposed to sifting through information. And then in the information, it did link things like the National Trust for Historic Preservation, National Advisory Council for Historic Preservation, and then also some local preservation resources. Again, it's only one of its only downsides was that it didn't use imagery throughout the website that I think keeps people engaged in the website, and again breaks up some of the information. We did also look at Auburn and their website. They gave some very specific renovation links, and more so than some of the other websites. So they gave links to resources of different architects in the area that work on historic homes, and some links to how to paint your historic home, and then also they also had some social. They had links to some of their social media sites. So let me show you that one. You'll see with this one, they do use more imagery to break up the content a little bit. And they have some nice facts that they provide the community, and some of the regulations for, say, historic districts, or like Commissioner Lambert was discussing, maybe debunking some of the myths of having a historic home. So that might be helpful content. And it was very easy to navigate. It had nice, clear tabs on the side. It did also provide commissioners' names if they wanted to reach out to someone in the commission to get more information or to suggest something. It would have obviously city web or emails in that, but and it had some related quick links on the side here as well. One of the final communities we did look at was City of San Francisco, which you might say, why did you look at such a large city? But actually they were very helpful to just see. They are very stylized and in a completely different way, and organize their webpage in a completely different way. They are very involved in their historic preservation, and have a very, a large group of local organizations that support that as well. So I'll show you that. They do a nice job at laying out the page and breaking it up with imagery. It's very clean and gives an overview of preservation. And then the programs that they have. They break it up into districts. As you know, San Francisco is very district oriented. And so they have programs for different districts and initiatives. But they do a great job at using visual imagery and quick snippets of information. And then having hyperlinks that you can delve down into the information a little more. Makes it very user friendly to have kind of a larger overview, go from the larger to the smaller, more detailed information. And here it has initiatives that the city is specifically working on. This is probably way more detailed than we can get, but we could use some of that same ideology in terms of navigation through a website. So taking some of the information that we learned with the case study and then information that's been expressed through previous commission, HPC commission meetings, some of the information that we've kind of disseminated and kind of like a skeleton layout, the high level overview of Woodland history and some of the things that we could delve down into with that, the heritage homes, possibly looking at past recipients and maybe information and criteria for that nomination process, link to maps and library, having it in one place so that when you go on the historic page that it has kind of everything at your fingertips. And then walking tour, and then there was some discussion of maybe even interactive, GIS interactive maps, and historic home resources and links. So some of the ones that we had previously talked about, are listed here, but there are some that we could pull off of the web pages that we just looked at. And here's some of the local resources that we've had on some of our meetings as well. So I just wanted to show you one example that our GIS staff person put together that maybe, get your mind thinking about these story maps that can happen in GIS. So this is a story map that was put together by myself working with the GIS staff person here for the city. We just quickly kind of took the information from our nominated homes and made a story map that could be interactive, that you could click on the location, it could zoom in and kind of give some information and give a picture of the nominated home. So these types of story maps can be used in a lot of different ways and kind of give an interactive aspect to our website that could be embedded in different ways into kind of that skeleton that we were talking about. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the commissioners and we can have a discussion about I'll put it back on the skeleton kind of outline that we have. Some discussion about possible content and direction of the website, and then also the overall draft work program.
Thank you, Megan. So from the commissioners then, some comments, ideas?
Commissioner Lapsley, I'd like to make several comments. First of all, thank you, Megan. Very informative presentation. One comment on maps. I have been in contact with Spencer Bowen and Heather Langto of the archives. They have a 1948 49 Thomas Brothers map of the historic city of Woodland, which actually shows the, I won't call them districts, but the additions. You can go into the map and you can actually find your lot, unless it's been subdivided now. And that lot will exist within a name saying the Dingle edition or the Douglas edition or whatever. What your GIS people were planning to do would be they could then click on that and it would bring up the plat map for the original edition. This was done, this information was given to Spencer about a month ago, and I'm not sure what's happened with it. And I know that we don't have all the plat map additions, but GIS has been working on this, and I'll be talking with Heather Langto either tomorrow or I hope tomorrow, and be able to see what plat maps of additions to the city of Woodland need to be scanned, which may mean that I'm going to have to go back into the archives and actually find the actual page additions in the archives so that they can then scan them. But that is something that the city has been working on. And so you might want to talk with Spencer about that, and because that would clearly fit in. Another comment, 40 years ago, the city of Oakland had published a book called Rehab Right. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it was a very useful book when we were redoing a home. It gives an overview of architectural styles. And of course, their architectural styles are exactly the same as the ones that we're dealing with here, going from Victorian up through bungalows. And it helps the homeowner learn about various architectural features and how to do things correctly to keep within the context of the original home. And I'm not sure the status of Rehab Right. When I checked it about 10 years ago, it was still available online. And I think that might be a resource that we might want to have a link to, because I think it would be very, very helpful for homeowners. But of course, the real issue for all of this is the clarity on what it is we want to accomplish and what directions we want to go. From my perspective, I'd like to see this be useful for homeowners and at the same time, let them be able to learn how to research their own home within the historical context of Woodland. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lapsley. The last time we talked about this, we talked about bringing the home awards to life in a mapping context. And what you just showed, Megan, was exactly, I think, what we were really after. I agree. It's really good looking. And so that actually makes this a lot more sort of touchy-feely for the consumer on the other side, which means that people, not just people in Woodland, people everywhere can see it. But certainly the residents of Woodland can see, the fact that there's this home there, where it's at, what it looks like, it's got an award, and get some information about it, a snapshot, and then dig a little deeper. And that's actually a really neat concept. So I applaud you for doing that, because that's what we really wanted. I think Commissioner Lapsley was talking about the plat maps, and there are a number of maps that are on the Woodland City's website. Some of those maps are pretty good. Some of them are not so great, simply because they don't let you actually see much detail. And certainly it's limited by the fact that it's a scanned document that's an old map. And so you're limited to the scanning technologies at the time that were used and some of those other things. But I think anything that we can do to bring those maps more to life and tie that to the Woodland history and link this website, which is the HPC website, to that as a resource will further what we're really after, which is that educating the public on what the historic homes in Woodland are and giving them information they can actually use. So I agree with that. And I think that's in your linked map library. I think that's where you're thinking about that. My biggest concern was the map library, while it's got some interesting features, tends to be a little bit flat when you get there. And so that's just the city has to do some more work in that area. So, So that and the walking down the walking tour, I thought was a really neat example, if in fact that can happen. So yes, so those are sort of my initial takeaways here.
Okay. So what I'm hearing are some of the main themes: resources, education. And then also just kind of showing off the work that has been done in Woodland, whether it's highlighting homes that have been in the Heritage Home Awards or the walking tours that highlight kind of those aspects as well.
Commissioner Dennis, I agree. I think that images go a long way as well. If you have somebody visiting from out of town or wants to research Woodland, it's important to catch their attention right off the bat, and having images of those historic homes or highlighting a couple of them on the first page, I think goes a long way. I really like the map, the interactive map, and having the home right next to it with the description. And if you can make that into a walking tour and something that somebody could download on their phone, I think that's great. That's all.
There had been previous discussion about a standalone app. That's a lot of work. And so we've kind of, put that to the side, but definitely even, accessing the web page on your phone, if there was an interactive map that they could kind of, stroll with that information, might be kind of the first steps towards that.
Commissioner Lambert here, echoing what others have said, this was really well done. I liked the assessment and the benchmarking that was really put into it. A lot of thought, and we appreciate it quite a bit. The map is really cool, and I do think it does bring the Heritage Home Award program a little more to life, which is very exciting. I am guessing that there was some assessment of aesthetics and things like that, but the web page that would be worked on would still live within the City of Woodland content management system, and so it would be somewhat restricted by that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we can, like the story maps, kind of let you get out of that set format.
Okay.
But we can do quite a bit with even the template that we're constrained a little bit by. And we can add a lot of images. And I think that, from the overall takeaway that I got from the case study was, images and breaking up the information in kind of clear, concise content that maybe they can delve deeper in, and having it very user-friendly with the tabs on the side, and kind of thinking about that structure so that you don't have to dive, 5 clicks in to find what you're looking for.
One question I have for you and the rest of the staff would be around the searchability. Is the map in its own system, if someone were to Google, say, one of the addresses, would it show up in search functionality, or is it sort of off and not indexable?
Yeah, it may not be indexable on its own website. We might be able to have that listing in our website, and then have the hyperlink for the interactive map, so that if you search that address, it comes up as the 2020-2021 Heritage Home listing, and then there's a interactive map that goes along with it that they can click on and find it right away. So make those associations, then the information's all right there together.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Bowen here. One other thing that comes to mind when I was looking at this sort of skeleton framework. One of the things that's not in here is the heritage trees. And they are on maps as well. And we saw a little bit of that earlier. So as when we look at the sort of the heritage homes and in between that and linked to the library, we might want to incorporate the heritage trees because there's a significantly large portion of the public that actually is interested in that. So, and it's part of what we do as well.
Well, and as we have more years of nominations, that listing might get really long. And so maybe it would be better to have, you know, each year and maybe a little information, but have the map that gives you where they are in the pictures so that it doesn't take up a huge long web page specifically for that you have to scroll through.
Correct, because you could scroll through many, many pages to get down to kind of what you might be interested in.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I think just to close this out, I have some points that I'm going to take forward and kind of hone in on those things, make a skeleton, kind of refine the skeleton for the web page, and then look at you know, taking this forward to City Council. This is just one aspect of the working plan, the draft document for the work plan. But ultimately that does go to City Council and they will want to kind of see a more refined, if I can show them some outline of what we're thinking for the website and some of these story maps, I think that might be of interest to them.
Thank you. Are we going to also then look at the actual work plan as part of this, or when we're done with this particular aspect of it?
Yeah, so we are done with this particular aspect of it. So right now, it was attached as a document. I didn't put it up on our presentation here. I just want to kind of go through the three some of the top priorities as we have it now. So the ones that received priority number one were obviously the meetings and gathering regularly. We're trying to achieve that with different initiatives that we have. And as we get closer to Heritage Home Awards, you know, we'll have, again, all of those regular meetings. And then it will go on to the next cycle of the next cycle of Heritage Home Awards that we'll have to start looking at. The other ones that received the priority number one, the Heritage Home Awards themselves, and then the information on historic resources in landmark districts, that kind of feeds into the website and information on that. And then also the comprehensive zoning update. I know that has kind of been silent for a while because our housing element took precedence. We had a deadline through the state on our housing element. So the comprehensive zoning update kind of got sidelined, but that is going to come back online. And there still is discussion of doing a joint meeting possibly with the Planning Commission for that. And we would be specifically looking at the downtown districts and the incorporation of the downtown specific plan into the comprehensive zoning. So that was one of the number one priorities. And then also the website that we discussed this evening. And those were the top priorities. The secondary tier of priorities, the fund allocation to special projects, that had to do with more the walking tour books, which we haven't sold a lot of. And that was one of the, and I think it's actually that public doesn't know that they exist really. So that might be something to have on the table even for purchase at our 150th anniversary. And we really haven't been coinciding with the stroll as much. And I think that that's where we had a booth in the past where we brought out those books for sale. And then just any updates to the walking tour book, that was kind of a second tier priority. We felt like the book was still pretty relevant and didn't need, the energy that it takes to go through that update. And actually, the heritage and landmark trees was tier 2, but David Wilkinson has really spearheaded that to be a #1 priority. So we could discuss, moving that up into a tier 1. And then moving on to tier 3, it was residential design guidelines for historic neighborhoods. And that's getting pretty prescriptive in telling people how to, redo their homes. So when you talk about guidelines, that's getting more prescriptive than just resources. So I don't know if we want to delve into that at this point. That probably will be part of the discussion on the zoning code. And then the certified local government, that was a tier 3, only because the amount of effort that it takes to get the documents for that certification is quite lengthy. But we could discuss that as well. And then interactive walking tour app, that was the other one that I just kind of previously mentioned. That's a tier 3 as well. And it may take more resources and potentially money revenue than we have right now. So there's some kind of interim discussion on these interactive GIS maps that might get us halfway there. So if anyone wants to discuss any of those items and what tier they are on currently, that's where our draft is at.
I'd like to make 2 comments, Commissioner Lapsley. I can now lower my hand. With regard to working with the stroll, I am now being my 5th year. This is going to be my last year on the stroll as chair. But during that time, we've never had a representative from the city selling books. We very much welcome it. We probably have a spare shade canopy, and I bet you'd make some sales because people do ask for it. When I became chair, I kind of said, we're very short-handed, and I don't think we should be selling t-shirts or anything besides simply the tickets, partly because it gets involved with taxes, although Tanya Garcia has told me that apparently if you ask for a donation, then you don't have to keep the taxes. But I don't really want to go off on that. The stroll board is very short-handed now, but we would very much welcome a city presence. It's on a Saturday, so I mean, I don't know how the city personnel would work that out, and maybe take a day off, but you'd be very, very welcome. The other comment that you had made about the tier 3, the possibility of, in the zoning context, of telling people what they can do with their houses. I think once we get off Main Street, I would be very adverse to telling people what they should do with their houses, but I would certainly like to see have resources out so that people can do it right. And again, I would really strongly suggest that someone in the city look up Rehab Right. I'm sure it's still available online, and it's very useful.
Thank you for that recommendation. I'll definitely look that up.
So this is Commissioner Bowen. Going back to the concept of raising the heritage and landmark trees from a tier 2 to a tier 1. My concern with doing something like that is that it competes with the other tier 1 categories. And so with our meetings with the preservation awards and with the resource and landmark districts, and also with the zoning and the website update, are all tier 1. That actually just brings another tier 1 to compete with all those. And we've all noted that resources are very thin and not likely to get much larger in the foreseeable future, perhaps later, but not sort of in the immediate future. Is there a downside to leaving it as a tier 2?
I don't think so. I think it just means that, we've been fortunate that the Tree Foundation has made it their #1 priority in their tier 1 kind of unofficially, along with other initiatives that they have. So they've really spearheaded that and brought things forward to us, and, been very active in the presentation. So in that way, and it does cross over to some of our tier 1 initiatives, such as the website. So we can support it in that way. I think it maybe is not a loss that it's a tier 2 because it gets addressed in other ways. And like I said, by the Tree Foundation as well.
Yes. I agree with that because every one of these tiers actually has a work element to it. As an example, the website update there's the suggestion of an ad hoc subcommittee to work with the city's website. So that would be an ad hoc subcommittee of the 4 of us. And the same thing happens with the zoning update, and the same thing also happens with the historical resources is more than meetings, but and then the recommendation is a subcommittee to work on with the Woodland Tree Foundation. So my basic concern is that we not bite off too much in the first year here, as moving into another sort of a new work plan. And that we don't look down the road and find out 2 years from now that while we made it a priority 1, we never even talked about it.
Well, and we may have to amend the work plan to remove the ad hoc committees because there are regulations governing those, that we take minutes and we do some formal, it's a little more formal than just a few people getting together and discussing something. So as you mentioned, since our commission right now only has 4 members, that might not be in the best way to use our time. Maybe just having open discussion during our regular meetings is the best way to use it.
So I noticed that, for instance, in under the routine ongoing commission partnership with Stroll Through History, we identify volunteer members and or appointed ad hoc subcommittee. Well, we're lucky this year that Commissioner Lapsley is on the commission because he's also the chair of the Stroll, and certainly well integrated with that. So that actually ends up being covered. But when we look at the web update, having a volunteer or a ad hoc committee of some kind to do that, it isn't quite as easy. And so from the standpoint of how we actually accomplish this, do we just ask for a volunteer from the commission to work with the city on that?
I think that sometimes it's difficult to get that kind of commitment from somebody. My suggestion has been that I utilize some of our intern help to kind of fill in those hours and help us with some of this. They can at least do some of the work on the back side of things, and then I can present those some of that work, to this commission, and like tonight get feedback and go back with an intent and direction. I think we can ask for help from different commissions, but I think everyone is spread a little thin. Right now is a particularly kind of different time where everyone's kind of getting back into the swing of things. So it may be difficult to find that commitment from others. Whereas students have a vested interest in committing their time for an internship.
Okay. Then this is a draft work plan at this point.
It is, yes.
So at some point, the commission will need to formalize this and adopt a plan. And I'm assuming that's not tonight, even though we've got it in front of us as a draft. If we're removing some things and like the ad hoc committee kind of work because there's some technical issues there, would that be like an agenda item for our next meeting?
We can, I will present it and we can, I can remove them and I can present it again and then we can have discussion on it and then we can approve it at that point at the new revision.
Okay. What are the other commissioners' feelings on this? This has been a work item for many months now, and obviously because we haven't been able to meet because of the COVID. But we certainly would like to, I think, get it adopted and move forward with it, so we have an actual work plan that we're working with the city on. So that would mean our August meeting.
Yep.
So are there other thoughts from the other commissioners on timing on this?
I can bring it forward as a formal draft in August and we could vote on it.
That would give me more time to review this and go over it as well.
Yeah, that might give Mark, who just joined us, a little bit more time to look at it. We can have discussion at the August meeting. I can bring the formal draft and we can go from there. The next step would be taking it to council once this body has approved it.
Great. So Commissioner Lapsley and Lambert, any other thoughts on this?
That seems fine to me. I think August can work.
Agreed.
Jim, I think you're muted.
I did. It seems like we have a direction for this item then. That's what I was interested in, is just not letting it linger again. So thank you, Megan.
Okay, great. I think I have some direction and thank you for your comments. And we'll bring this item, a formal draft, back for final discussion and hopefully approval in August.
Great. And I think our last item, are there any other business items? I'm not aware of any.
Staff doesn't have any more at this time.
Are there any other items that the Commissioner Lambert, Lapsley, or Dennis would like to bring up?
Lapsley, Chairman, Commissioner Lapsley here. Not something I really want to bring up, but I had said earlier in the meeting that I would get a draft of the 550 Oak Street to Megan later on this evening. I realize I haven't shared that yet, the draft yet, with the homeowner, which really is what I should do first.
Sure.
So I will be sending that to her tonight, to Liza, and then after I get her review, and I don't expect there'll be any problem, I'll send it on to you.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Lapsley. And then that takes care of all of our agenda items. And so at this point, without any other business or other comments, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. And Mark, pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you all as well. Thank you.
Look forward to more interactions.
Yes. And Megan, I'll email you so that we can get in touch regarding the template and timeframes for the submittals for those 2 homes.
Sounds good. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Is that
night.
all?